welcome back to Inside Houston. I'm your guest host, Shad Boggany, and I'm here with my guest in the studio is Stephen Harris with Harris Advisors, talking about the MCC program. You know, I wanted to share with you why home ownership is so important and why it's a part of the American dream. Mortgage interest deduction, bankruptcy protection, you get a homestead exemption there, capital gains exemption exclusion when you buy a home. So, and when I talk about capital gains exclusion, well, you can sell your home without paying taxes up to $250,000 if you're single, up to $550,000 if you're a couple, $500,000 if you're a couple. Home equity deduction. This is why the American dream is so important, and this is why we talk about home ownership. You know, and I wanted to bring Stephen in because all of it comes together to help you to be able to purchase a home. Stephen, you know, we were talking on the break and you were giving us a scenario of one of the home builders you went out and visit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And this is where a builder gets it and says, hey, I want to be able to own a home, get everybody who comes through, if they qualify for it, let's give it to them. I'm going to let you roll with it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I love it when you're working with other people and you can have that light bulb moment. You can see the light come on in their eyes and they say, this is a really good deal, good program. And I told Shad we had a time after Hurricane Ike that we had some loosened rules that we're hoping to accomplish again, but we went to one of the major builders, can I say, KB Homes, and we talked with them about the mortgage credit certificate, or MCC, and the benefit not only in helping people qualify for their loan, but helping them be able to make their mortgage payments. So it's really about sustainable home ownership. We don't do anybody a favor if we get them into a house they can't afford. So sustainable home ownership is vitally important, and the MCC providing $166 more take-home pay every month can help people qualify for a home or qualify for more home. So as we're talking with the salespeople at KB Homes and they have that light bulb moment, they say, this is really a good program. I want you to come back and speak with all of our loan officers. So we went over to their mortgage company and he introduced me and he said to his people, this is a great program. He said, I'm not telling you that we're going to consider and offer this. What I'm telling you is we're going to put an MCC on every house we sell if somebody is eligible for it. And KB Homes will pay the cost. So
well, and that's a builder being very progressive.
That's right.
And being aggressive with the program. But you lay it out to who qualifies for it. So
sure.
Let's talk a little bit about what the terms are for the eligibility for this particular program.
The eligibility to use a mortgage credit certificate is really three simple requirements. First and foremost is that the borrower not have owned their own home within the past 3 years. We call that the federal income tax first-time home buyer requirement, but it doesn't necessarily have to be their first home. It has to be that they have not owned a primary residence anytime within the past 3 years.
Okay.
The second and often the biggest hurdle is to meet the income limits of not earning more than $71,500 for a single individual or couple, not earning more than $82,225 for a family of 3 or more. We do have certain targeted areas, and again, those are limited areas. I don't know if they'd expand that for flood areas or not, but single individuals in targeted areas are limited to no more than $85,800. Families of 3 or more within targeted areas are $100,000. So we have income generally of $71,500, $82,225 for family of 1 or 2 or 3 or more. We have a third requirement, and that is the purchase price limit, that we cannot purchase a home more than $304,000. That's a very generous purchase price limit, and frankly, the income limit often is more of a limiting factor because someone with it that meets the income limit will not often be attempting to qualify to buy a higher priced home. But the limits, the three requirements are first-time home buyer, not owned a home for 3 years, meet the income limit, meet the purchase price limit, and importantly, buy a home within Harris County or the jurisdiction of the issuing agency and be purchasing a home for their principal residence. This is not for rental properties, it's not for refinance, it is for home ownership itself.
Question, you just brought up something and a light bulb just went off. Hey, if I refinance my house, does my MCC continue to be on the loan?
You cannot get an MCC for the purpose of refinancing. If you use the program and you have an MCC in place, you later refinance your loan, it's very important that you take the necessary steps. You don't have to qualify again, but you do have to notify our program administrator, pay a small fee to have the MCC reissued for your new loan. Now, at that time of refinance, often people will stretch the maturity or adjust the maturity, sometimes down to 15 years. But the new MCC cannot be for a greater amount or for a longer term than the original MCC. So if someone has initially a $150,000 loan, they have paid down to $140,000. A few years later, they're trying to refinance and get a $160,000 loan. That's fine, they can do that, but the MCC will be reissued to cover only the remaining balance of $140,000 that they had on their existing loan in MCC, and for a remaining 25 years that they had left on their existing loan.
All right. You know, Steve talked about target areas, and so kind of give you an idea what target areas are. And the reason I'm kind of giving these definitions because we talk in this lingo all the time, but if you are a consumer thinking about purchasing a home, you may not, and you may want to live in a target area. Target area is usually a low-income census tract, where it's based on what the incomes are. It could be an area that they're trying to revitalize here in Houston or surrounding counties. And so in those particular census tracts, and you can ask your lender, if you give them the address of the property, they can normally go in and put in the computer, and it tells them if you're in that targeted area or that particular census tracts. So that's what targeted areas are all about. And to give you an example, inside Houston, if you're living in parts of 3rd Ward, you would be in a certain targeted area. If you were living in 5th Ward, you would be in a targeted area. If you were out in Acres Home, you would be in a targeted area. If you were living in Sunnyside, you'd be in a target area. If you're living in South Park, you'd be in a target area. That kind of gives you some idea of targeted areas. And they're spread all around Houston. It just depends on what area that you are looking at. And that once you find your house, you put in that zip code, that address, and the lender should be able to tell you if you're in a targeted area. Am I right, Steve?
You're absolutely right. You know, Shed, there are often two impediments to home ownership besides momentum and getting moving and getting into your car to go look. But the problems that many first-time home buyers have is the monthly payment. How can I meet that monthly payment? And two, what is that payment going to be so I can assess that? But the monthly payment is an impediment, and the cash to close is another impediment for many, many people. So that's why we've designed the program to say, here's down payment assistance, here's the best possible help you can have with your monthly payments by giving you half of your interest back up to $2,000 a year, or you can use both, but you don't have to use both programs together. And that said, there are many people who may own a home now and for various reasons are needing to move on. And I think some of the FHA rules will help address the disaster recovery. But for anyone who has owned a home and is buying another home, they can still use the down payment assistance of 6 points through the 5-Star Advantage program.
You know, Steve, I had a question for you. We had talked about the eligibility rules, but there's one program you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. You talked a little bit about it earlier because it gave down payment assistance.
Right.
Would you tell our audience what program that you do not have to be a first-time home buyer
Absolutely.
that you may qualify for this particular program?
I'll be glad to do that. We talked about the down payment assistance up to 6 points or 6%. On a $120,000 loan, 6% is $7,200. that can cover all or most of the closing costs and a little of the down payment assistance, and can be vitally important. That comes with a slightly higher mortgage rate, but the 5-Star Advantage does not require that eligible borrowers be first-time home buyers. It's to anyone who meets the income limits, which are also a little bit higher. I don't have those here. They'll have a higher mortgage rate, and they'll have some credit score overlays. But that is an important life-saving or deal-saving feature that can get somebody into a home that may say, I haven't yet saved the money to buy a home. Now, Olga Garza is my colleague, and she has spent a lot of time face-to-face with first-time home buyers. She was a lender, made loans, and she says how often people don't realize how close they are to home ownership, and they are so diligent about saving money to get into a house. But by the time you save the money to get into a house, the house price has gone up. So
Right.
you can really be missing out on a real opportunity by being a little too conservative. And so she has become my biggest advocate of the down payment assistance from the 5-Star Advantage to say, sure, it's a little higher mortgage rate, but you get 6 points. You can get into the house now. And as we've talked with the tragedy that we've faced, I think home prices are bound to do nothing but increase substantially over the next few years. So now is a good time that we can serve you and serve each other by helping people get off their couch, soggy or not, get into their car, go out and see what they can do. And let's take this opportunity to move forward together to rebuild the city of Houston, get out and achieve the dream of home ownership.
You know, Steve, I really agree with you on your commentary there in regards to home ownership. Guys, you can, you know, one of the things when I was telling you why you should purchase a home, I forgot off your property taxes you can write off, along with the interest that you can write off. And then if Steve uses Stephen's program, the MCC, you can get some of that interest given back to you. So it's a great time for home ownership here in the city of Houston. And one of the things that you keeps in mind that if you've got some savings, then you can get that flood insurance policy to protect yourself because you now have the MCC program to use. Stephen, a lot of these programs have a tax, I say a tax, but what I really mean is a credit score requirement.
Right.
Would you explain, does the MCC have one? How does that work with, because a lot of these different down payment assistance programs have some sort of credit score limit.
Yeah, they do, and the credit scores are imposed often with the best of intentions to say we don't want to harm somebody by helping them too much. We don't want to help somebody get into a situation they're not prepared for or can't handle. So again, homeownership training, information, free flow, and investigating what you're doing is important every step of the way. But a credit score is not required for the MCC per se, because it is a companion to any loan that you obtain. The loans themselves often have credit score requirements, and even the disaster loan, I think, showed a credit score
580.
of 580.
580.
But the MCC does not have a credit score. The 5-Star Advantage has several different credit scores depending upon whether you want 6 points of assistance, 5 points of assistance, or 4. But generally those are higher in the range of 620 to 640 credit scores to get the down payment assistance. The MCC is available with any loan.
Well, guys, I can tell you, if you've been through the flood, you're going to be looking at apartments, you're going to see apartment rents go up. You know, keep in mind that we're at a 95% occupancy rate already in the city of Houston. So just imagine those people who lost those apartments are now going out to look for other apartments. Those who were in homes are now going out to look for apartments. It's maybe the time that you might want to take the time to look at home ownership. It's a great time to purchase a home. Program like Steve has, the MCC program, is a great time. Let me give you a few tips. When you look at a mortgage payment, you've got some payments in there. You've got principal and interest is one. then you have your taxes, and then you have your insurance, and then you have a thing called mortgage insurance if you don't put 20% down. So you don't have to put 20% down. You can do the mortgage, they call it MIP. Steve, I'm having a senior moment. You can do what we call the MIP, mortgage insurance. So those are the components of your mortgage payment, okay? And if you're at certain income guidelines, you can write off that MIP also. So that's gonna be one of the keys to a mortgage payment. And I encourage everyone to get out there, take the time, go get your lender. Before you go rent an apartment, rent something, you might wanna look at that mortgage payment and says, can I do it? One thing, another little quick tip, 1% of the loan usually gives you a good idea. So if the loan is $120,000, roughly it's about $1,100, $1,200 a month payment. You know, guys, I want to tell you, thank you, Stephen, for coming in and seeing us. I want to thank you for viewing Inside Houston this evening. Don't forget to listen to me at KWWJ 1360. We do the Real Estate Corner every Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15, bringing in guests like Stephen to help you understand this marketplace out there. And don't forget, you can follow me on Facebook. Just look up Shad Bargany. All the tips that I have, and I've also got tips for sellers. I got tips for buyers. We talk about these types of programs all on my Facebook page. So please go out and take a look at it. Thanks again for visiting Inside Houston, and I'm your guest host, Shad Bargany with Better Homes and Gardens, Gary Green.
Inside Houston, brought to you by the Welcome to Houston Merchant Marketing Association. For more information, visit welcometohoustontexas.com. Do you want to be on Inside Houston? You got something to show and tell? Hey, give us a call, 713-300-9927.